Hi all, welcome back to Quarantine Questions. We're here this week with Lucinda. So Lucinda, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, how we know each other?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I am a sound engineer by trade, full time, have been for kind of years now. Work mostly with bands and in venues. I do some functions, some corporate stuff, and sort of work with independent artists, if you like.
Yeah.
So kind of fully freelance stuff, if you like. But we just kind of met through work. Really, didn't we? We ended up on the same couple of shows a couple of times, and that was kind of it.
Yeah. I was chatting with Just John from Soulbox the other day, and he speaks highly of you as ever.
Aww.
And so I kind of tour around mostly with them, and then you kind of tour around mostly with their associated band Amongst Wolves.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
I
get the soul and the pop, and you get all the alternate rock and stuff. Which
what a shame! What a shame! I tell you, it's such a. It's not a chore at all. I absolutely love them. I love them so much.
I mean, the hardship
I love
is for you
Soulbox
because
too.
I get a track
Disclaimer:
band.
I love Soulbox.
I get a track band, so I have like 2 QLab files to throw into a desk, and then you've got drums, bass, guitars, and stuff to go up extra early in the morning to patch in.
All of the early mornings, yeah. It's good fun though.
You're winning.
Yeah. It's all right though. They're a wicked. They're all like Soulbox are wicked to work with. I absolutely adore all of them. Wolves are amazing to work with too. You know, it's just they're just great. I feel really lucky to be able to work with them because you know everyone chips in, everyone gets on, everyone's just an absolute dream. So yeah, it's good fun.
Amazing. Should we get into the questions then?
Yeah, let's.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, do you want to describe a time you almost missed a deadline and how did you catch up?
Yeah, I mean, like I've had a little listen to a few of these by a few of the other podcasts, and you know, there's always the classic bands stuck in traffic, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Like it just happens. It is a thing, but that's not really me missing a deadline. That's sort of just kind of
life.
The life. Yeah, that's just life. It's just how it goes. But there was this one time that I fully accept entire responsibility for, where I almost missed a deadline in that I had a pretty early gig call. It wasn't particularly, I mean, note for viewers / watchers, Dan was actually on this event with me. So he fully knows the extent of what happened. But yeah, so long story short, it was a mental weekend, or even month. I think it was just we were expecting a bit of a slightly quieter end of, so we'd just come out of a bank holiday weekend, and then normally it kind of settles, so there's less chaos for a couple of months, whatever, or even a couple of weeks. But that couple of weeks didn't really slow down at all. So then we ended up just working straight through. And then this was a gig probably 6 weeks later that was just on the back of absolute chaos.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back. Early starts, late nights, even earlier starts, then like a bit of a lay-in and then weirdness. Anyway, so long story short, it had been a bit mental anyway. And then it was a super early start after a super late night, but it wasn't supposed to be a late night, just something that happened the night before. And then, so I got into bed, I got home probably, relatively late / early-ish. Put my phone on charge, set my alarm, I'd done everything, and I was fully expecting, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I was going to get up, I was going to get out. I'd prepped everything for the night before. I'd prepped everything the night before, ready to go, so I could just literally get up, have breakfast, leave the house. And my phone decided to reset itself and update itself.
Oh, it's the worst, isn't it?
That morning. So I woke up thinking, just kind of in that, what time is it? Just because that's just what happens. You never know where you're going to be, here, there, or anywhere else. So you just kind of go, oh, okay, fine. Oh, wait, no, I've got another 10 minutes. And I was fully expecting that. But instead, I looked at my phone and I saw the little 9 blobs on my phone saying, please put in your security code. I was like, oh crap.
No idea.
So yes, so I typed it in, had no idea what time it was. My watch had broken a couple of days before it, so I didn't have a watch that worked.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good time. Anyway, so I'd woken up, it was bang on 8:00, which was when I was supposed to be on site. I managed to get onto site within the hour. Obviously I made the appropriate phone calls, made the appropriate apologies and stuff, but it was really, really bad. Like it's never happened before. It was a one-time thing. I've turned off updates on my phone now, automatic updates, I really don't ever want, and everyone, but then when I told people, they went, oh yeah, so I turned them off ages ago just in case. I was like, I didn't even think, like my phone had never done it before that I knew of, it just kind of happened, and yeah, so I've not done it again since. And I'm never late. I hate being late. I'm always 15 minutes early. Like me and you would organise to eat at McDonald's before site, when we got on. So I wasn't even there. No one could ring me because my phone wasn't even on. So I had missed calls.
Like, I'm in Pret now. I didn't go to McDonald's. I was trying to be healthy and just no response.
Yeah, which again is unusual because I'm normally, I'm normally on it. So it was a horrible time. But that's like the only time I've ever personally missed a deadline that wasn't
sure
work/job specific. It was horrible. How did I catch up? I just worked my ass off for the next
really
I got on site and I was like, I've not had a coffee, I've not had anything, just had to everything was a blur. It was a flurry of everything. It was mental anyway, but that's what happened. It was the worst.
To be fair, I've done something very, very similar. We were working at the Albert Hall in London, and I was on the overnight install crew. So it was a 3 a.m. start time. Oh. So we're in the hotel close by, somewhere else in London, but like a 10-minute drive away.
Yeah.
And that was before I could drive and had a car. So there's three of us in a car together. So we're like, all right, well, we'll meet in the hotel reception for 2:30, and then we'll get to site, and then we'll do our thing, unload the truck, etc., etc. So I went to bed, set the alarms, and then got a phone call on the telephone that's in the hotel room at 3:10, being like, "Where are you?" It's I was still in bed and everything, and basically my phone, I'd set the alarm, but I'd set it for the weekdays, and it was a Saturday morning.
Classic, right? I had that as well. I've had, I just, every once in a while, I'll be like, my alarm will go off on a Saturday, and I'll be like, oh, why is that going off on a Saturday? I'll be like, no, don't undo that, because no, just don't. You'll put yourself in danger. I'd rather have an alarm wake me up and me go, no, I don't need this, than fully turn it off.
Yeah, so from now on, I've set the alarm to go off on every single
day, irrespective,
just in case.
Yeah,
doesn't matter if I know exactly what day it is.
For sure, I'm so with you.
Yeah, but I feel your pain there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, terrible
times.
Nightmare. And then you feel so guilty during the day, don't you?
Oh, I could not get over it.
Extra hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of people, a chance of someone else having done something else so much worse, or so much, or being so much more late, or or not even showing up, or so. Oh, I couldn't handle the guilt. It was horrible. Yeah. I'm just the worst at handling. Thank you very much.
You've got a conscience.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Should probably get rid of that, really, shouldn't I? No, everything would be a little bit easier.
Well, yeah, probably easier. Should we move on to question 2?
Yeah, let's.
Do you want to describe a time when you misunderstood a brief and what happened?
So I've not been in a situation where I personally have been responsible enough for this particular situation to affect me on a big scale. But it has affected me where a miscommunication has happened with my bosses, between my bosses and the client. So then I've arrived with gear or equipment that wasn't necessarily what they needed or wanted. Well, it was it's what they'd asked for, but because the client wasn't necessarily up or knowledgeable on what they needed, they'd been so I'll elaborate a bit more in a sec. But so essentially, I'd gone to this particular event with the equipment that my superiors understood was what was needed. However, the client has come in and not done that and not understood and has assumed or presumed or gone with something else, because apparently they had a conversation a couple of days before where they weren't happy with something and then they thought it had been changed when actually it hadn't, because nothing had been confirmed with them. They hadn't replied to emails. So as far as my boss's superiors were concerned, nothing was confirmed, nothing was extra billed, paid for and anything, nothing was ordered in because it wasn't set, it wasn't discussed to the level that it needed to be in order to be then put on the show. But just before I got on site, I was working with one of my mates, another engineer, who had been in to set up some of it the night before. So just because it was a little bit easier to drop stuff off, and we knew it would be less complicated to load in at, say, midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning when people aren't really using the service lift, than try and load in during the day, first thing in the morning on a weekend. So we got the gear in the night before, and then we were just setting it up that morning. Anyway, we got there at the time that we thought we were supposed to be, and it was all set up ready to just have a bit of an intro mic. So we just needed like a handheld or headset, which I'd EQ'd the night before, and a couple of speakers just for the intro, so then they could go blah 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 blah, some background music for an hour while there was a bit of a schmooze, meet and
dinner
sort of
vibe.
Bit of a thing, and then they were going to go do their thing for the day and then come back for this thing later. So we'd set up that just ready for them to go. We'd EQ'd everything, rung everything out. It was perfectly fine. Anyway, they wanted to start at 9, so we were there for 8. Which, it's fine. All we knew, or all we needed to do, we knew that we needed to do, was to just literally turn everything on, check the batteries for the packs, which we knew were full anyway because we'd been in the night before, and give them to them ready to start. From about 7:15 a.m., the other engineer on was getting phone calls. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Apparently they had changed because they wanted to get into the room slightly earlier because they weren't aware that we'd set up the night before, blah, 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 blah. There was a miscommunication that end. So when we got on site at 8, they'd already been trying to get hold of us for an hour, essentially, because they were trying to go through the hotel, even though they should have been trying to contact us directly, which then eventually they did do, blah, 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 blah. So then we go in and we are met with this onslaught of, but why isn't this staff here? Why isn't this? Not the hotel staff. No, the people that we had, the clients essentially, or the representative of the client.
Yeah, I love it when they get the hotel manager to come and shout at you first, and then come over.
Well, the hotel manager was just because they had been in. We'd organised with them what we were going to do, but then the client wanted to get in earlier, so they'd kind of gone to the hotel and said, can we get in a bit earlier? And the hotel have gone, well, of course, we'll let you in. That's absolutely fine. But they'd not contacted us to get in earlier, and they'd not told the hotel staff that they wanted us in any earlier either. So, so the hotel staff were like, well, we're letting you in, but it's nothing to do with us. Anyway, so we'd gotten in. It was already 10 to hooks, and it was already a bit interesting.
It's a great way to start a day, that, isn't it?
It had already been, because we were in there until 2 a.m. that morning, so we'd gone home to like get some sleep and be fresh, but then literally we'd already done what we thought the work was initially anyway, and then by the time we got on site, they wanted to start at 9, which they could do, but then things weren't in the right place. They were expecting other things, they were expecting more. They started saying how unprofessional we were being because we didn't have certain, and I kind of, it was just because it wasn't that I'd misunderstood the brief, but at the same time there was definitely a big miscommunication. But then I've rung my bosses and said, look, this is what we've been faced with now, and they've said, well, that's not what was agreed, so that's not. So I'm like, I'm just telling you, I'm just letting you know that this is what we're now doing. So if you get any form of email or written anything, this is from my opinion, or from how I've seen it, and from what has happened and gone down. That's it. So yeah, and then from that, like after we just managed to kind of work out what they needed and wanted. It just meant moving a few things around, but obviously that took a little bit more time than they wanted. But eventually we kind of settled the client. They understood what was going on. They kind of, they were just very obviously stressed, and we were trying to contain the situation, but also get moving. So luckily, because there was two of us on site, one of us could do what they needed, and the other one could kind of just sit and work it out with the client. Exactly what do you want? We will do this, this, and this. We can do this, blah, blah, blah. So, we diffused the situation, but then just as we had gotten the client calm, someone from the office came down to site and went, right, okay, what can I do? What's going on? And I literally, it made it so, because then she had another person coming in and going, well, this should be this, this, and this, but they weren't any part of the people that had booked it, the people who had discussed it, like the tech side of it, or anything to do with me and the other engineer. So it was like, you literally, now we've got to go through the whole thing all over again, just because you don't know what's happening right now when we're on site. So can you just, but because they came in like a bit of a whirlwind, it exacerbated the situation a bit more. And then we had to spend another hour just, sorting stuff out. But it all went fine, because it does. Yeah. It happens and it works because it has to. So, yeah, it's good fun.
Bit of a mess, though.
It was, yeah. So it wasn't, not so much of a misunderstood brief, but more of a miscommunication between two sides of a coin, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, those are always the worst, aren't they?
And they happen more often than you think.
Oh, 100%. It's depressing how often they happen. Although,
so funny.
In rock and roll, it kind of happens a little bit. But corporate, it seems to happen every single show at the moment. I mean, not right now, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I don't do as many corporates. I do a lot more band stuff. Yeah. But yeah, when it does happen, it has happened quite a few times at corporates. So it is very bizarre. But this is why we need prep. This is why communication is so important between various sides. Like, there's so much like admin Monday, like that I have admin Monday because Monday tends to be my quiet day. Admin Monday is so important. And like, there's so many emails, but you just got to keep going on it, because it's just, it's relentless, but it's so worth it, because you get on site and you know what you're doing. And then, then there's the other side of the argument, which is like, you can send as many emails as you like, but you're not actually going to know what's going on until you get there.
Take everything just in case.
Yeah, everything. Absolutely everything.
Do we need a water cooler?
Yeah.
Take it. Let's take it.
Wait, I'm gonna need various amounts of how much power do we need? 13s will be fine. No, just in case, we'll take all of the 16, all of the 32. Throw in some 3-phase. It'll be fine.
Bring the distros, all the distros.
All of them. Doesn't matter, just all of the distro.
Yeah. Can you describe the most exciting audio project you've completed, like big gigs or fun gigs? Most exciting audio project.
I wasn't sure if you meant like audio project as in like a project, like a project on the computer, or like a physical thing or whatever. Well, no, I've only really got one or two, but at the risk of sounding like a complete fangirl, so I just it's just, I'm a massive fan of music and of gigs, and generally like it's my entire life, and it's my heart and my soul, and I love my job, and I don't think I can say that any more than I already do. But there was this one, it's not so much like an audio project, but there was this one particular gig that I was going to go to.
Sure.
And then I bumped into one of my mates who was actually working the gig a couple of days before, and just kind of saying, "Oh, I see you there. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited." Yeah. And he ended up getting poorly, so he rang me and said, "Do you want to, like, are you free? Like, I know you want to go, but
Yeah.
I'm really poorly, and I know that you're off that night, and also you said you were going to be there anyway. And I literally, in films where you have like this memory section that kind of comes out and you just play this little thing through in your head, and in real time it's a split second.
Yeah.
But in your head, you go through this entire storyline and this entire thing. And I just kind of went, oh, but I really, oh no, I can't. Can I do that? Is that? And this particular gig, I was so excited about it because it's I'm a punk rock kid at heart. I always kind of have been a bit of a metalhead as well. No, I know what gave me away. So there was this band who I've listened to for years, but like one of the guys in the band is a massive influence of mine. So I basically, in this, separate little instance in my head, I was like, can I do it? Am I going to be okay to do this? And I had those questions going through my head of like, am I good enough? What do I do if this happens? Am I ready for this? It's every question that I have ever thought. Yeah. So I reverted back to being about 16 and going, oh, and then
you're only back 17 now. So
and then I snapped back into my own head and went, yeah, of course I'll do it. Don't worry about it. And then put the phone down.
Pause on the phone.
I know, right? And then I put my phone down and totally fruck out a little bit just because I was like, this is gonna be a minute. Oh, what? No, you've got a Potter. You've got to just be cool. And I was, again, in teen films, you're like, be cool, be cool, be cool. And I had that in my head just the whole time. I was like, it's gonna be fine. But it was super exciting for me and then I found out that some of my mates were supporting as a local band. Yes, you do.
I thought it was that gig.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Yeah. So this gig that we're talking about, this is a Fireball tour. It happens every year. It's normally less than Jake and someone. It could be Real Big Fish. It could be one of many people. But last year it was Goldfinger and Saving Ferris. But Goldfinger, big influence for me. But Goldfinger now as well had a bit of a reshuffle a couple of years back. And so the touring members of Goldfinger, as it was for this particular gig, is more like a super band for me. So you had two the original members and then three members from other bands who I equally listen to and have listened to and been inspired and influenced by. And then obviously Less Than Jake, who are wicked and I love them lots as well. And then my mate's band were supporting.
Well
as
Done
like
You.
Well Done You, who are a very, very good band who I also love very much.
Me and John actually spoke a bit about Mike Loetta as being one of his influences. And Loetta is the leader of Well Done You band. So there we go.
Yeah, Well Done You are very good. Mike Loetta is the world. He's great. He's wicked. He's so good as well. I just love him. He's brilliant. So it was this particular show. And it was exciting for me on a professional level because it was, for me personally, arguably the biggest show of my life, inspiration-wise.
Sure.
And because everyone was really... So at the end of the gig, I'd been so cool all day. I'd been like so pro. And I'd kind of talked my way into it as well because by the time I'd gotten into it, I was a little bit nervous going into work. But by the time I'd kind of been in and loading had started and all that, you get into the flow of it. So it wasn't like I was ever in any danger of not being professional, but it just, in my head, I knew once I'd settled into it, it would just be not another gig, but I had again this other, like another outer body kind of experience thing when the bands were on stage. Like 16-year-old me would be very proud of me right now. This is 100%. So good. This is the best. And this is what I wanted to do, so it's really nice to have that realization. So the most exciting audio project for me is working with bands who inspire me or who have shaped me musically, sort of, I say physically, but just mentally, emotionally, anything or any music that is so ingrained in my soul that you can't not. It's just like it's in your blood. And that for me is the most exciting audio project. So for me, again, going to work and working with bands every day, as lame as it sounds and as much as it makes me sound like a fangirl, I just love it. I just can't. I love it. But yeah, that was super exciting because it meant that there's going to be, I've got another couple of bands that are like, yeah, this is going to be the most exciting project I've ever worked on ever. But they are yet to happen. But they're within the realms of possibility as well. So it's good. They'll be exciting when I get there.
So I've got a stage versus studio. Do you do enough studio to make this a good question, or should we skip it?
I mean, I used to do a lot of studio, so I think this would be a nice short answer for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Would I set them up differently? Slightly. I mean, it'd be marginally different, but it wouldn't be vastly different. And I'm pretty stage conscious when it comes to tidiness. And there is a big difference between live engineers and studio engineers when it comes to cable runs.
This is what Connor was saying as well.
Yes. So,
and then the fault finding in the studio takes forever because everything's a mess.
Yeah. Well, this is it. So my studio would be more like a stage, but in the studio. So I would, it would probably, the mic choices might differ slightly just purely because I'd be in a studio. I'd have more control of what was going on.
Yeah.
But realistically speaking, it would be more like, it would just look tidier. Just because that's my practice and I can't stand messy cables. It's like, how do you know where anything is? You just don't know. I hate, no.
Messy cables.
Messy cables ruin everything. I had a shadow in
every cable.
I had a shadow in a little while ago. She's wicked. Actually, her name's Kath, and she's really, really great. Going to be an amazing. Well, she is an amazing engineer, but you know, she's still relatively new to the thing. But yeah, she's great. And on this particular show, it's more of a production as opposed to a gig. So it was a lot more. There was a lot more costume changes. Like it was backing tracks and some handhelds and stuff. They were touring a desk and lighting package, and so there wasn't really that much for us to do. And she went, "Oh, so it's gonna be a really quiet day." I was like, "No, absolutely not." So this is what we do. And we went round. We were like sweeping the stage, and this for me. So technically speaking, as a sound engineer. It wasn't part of my job to be sweeping the stage and just double checking things, but because I was on monitors for the day. So as far as I'm concerned, I am in charge of the stage. When it comes to a gig,
it's your realm.
if I'm on monitors, then it's my stage. Unless I've got a patch engineer, in which case it's sort of, the levels kind of blur a little bit, but you have to work it out. But if it's just me, I'm on monitors, it's my stage, fine. That is what I do. So especially if we've got guitars and people tuning stuff and losing things, and it's an active gig venue. So for it to be a production to come in, that was with dances, and I didn't know what they were going to be doing. They could be break dancing, they could be doing the worm, they could hurt themselves, or if there's something spiky on the floor or whatever, because it's a gig venue, like there's stones and stuff. So I was like, right, we're going to sweep the floor and I'm going to give you a lesson on gaffer tape. And she was like, who knew you could, like, it would be, and I'm like, dude, it's going to literally, it might sound tedious, right? It might sound ridiculous, but it's so worth it. So worth it. So yeah, and she said to me a couple of months later, she was like, that was so useful. I was like, it is, and people don't necessarily appreciate it very much, but yeah, it's when it comes to stage stuff, stages have to be tidy. So a studio for me would have to be tidy. You know where everything is, where everything goes. That's just how I can't stand messy cables.
I mean, take that one step further. My freezer rather, not the fridge, has gaffer on the drawers to say what goes in each drawer. So one's for desserts and ice cream and frozen grapes. One's got meat stuff in. One's got veg in. One's got like chips and potatoes and stuff in.
I love it.
I'll insert a little video, little photo here for you to see.
That's just so good.
You can't not do. Well, I can't not do that.
But if you pull the gaffer off the drawer, won't it leave? because it'll be frozen gaffer, right? So you'll leave marks on the drawer.
I mean,
which isn't about. I mean, at the end of the day,
freezer, so.
yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. But like
Yeah,
in my head, I've got this. Yeah,
I've got some IPA solvent. If you really want, Lucinda.
Oh, great. Okay, well, next time you defrost your freezer, you might have to change your gaffer.
That's a good
upgrade your gaffer.
Oh,
love it.
Yeah. Do you want to describe a time when you were required to think on your feet, and how did it go?
I mean, every show is different. Every show is completely different. You'll get bands show up. You'll have a really extensive, very accurate, or as far as accurate tech spec. Set up for the tech spec. They're showing up late, fine. Or someone won't. Oh, I did have one. It was not so long ago. It was a massive metal show. It was a band that I've grown up, not to the same degree as me fangirling over Goldfinger, but it was a band, a highly influential metal band. And so it was important. It was important to me because I was like, wow, these guys, I've grown up listening to them, so it's important. But me thinking on my feet was essentially, so they had techs for everything. So they had a guitar tech, a blah, 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 drum tech, blah, blah, blah. So every specific instrument had their own tech. So we went through sound check and did all of these tech checks. But then, and everything was fine post sound check. And then we do everything else. We don't touch any of the gear. None of the mics change. No anything changes. So the stage as it's set for them at the end of their sound check is exactly the same as stage for when they walk on. Absolutely fine. They start the first song and there's loads of monitor adjustments. There's loads of everything that need doing. Well, not everything, but there's particular people in the band, the people that I'm sort of telling you are super important to the influential kind of members. In my eyes anyway, and they there's a little bit of feedback out the front for me in these vocal monitors, because by this point as well,
are you on monitors on this gig?
I'm on monitors, so where we've started with the mic, he's gone to it, first bit's fine, but then all of a sudden he cups, and we tried it with a cup, but not only did he cup, he angled it down. So it was at a different angle, and he also had two sets of monitors. So he had one pair in front of him, and then a spread pair, so one either side. So he has different amounts of
different level in
vocals or whatever in each thing. But also it means that whatever that feedback isn't necessarily coming from one. It might be coming from the other or both. It was an interesting thing. But at the time as well, we had more of a pressing issue at the back of the stage with the drum sub. It wasn't kicking out hard enough or loud enough or something. They tried moving it during the show and all this kind of thing. So what was fine is now not fine. And it was basically think on your feet. And that's every day for monitors. For any kind of engineering, it's every gig. But this was particularly poignant because he was really not having a good time at the back of the stage, and I couldn't really focus on trying to help other people because I had this thing going on at the back. And the potential then with that is if you don't think on your feet fast enough, that it then starts to detract from the show. And if the bands start getting antsy, it then reflects back to the audience, and then if the audience start getting antsy, then they start then reacting to what's happening. So
and security has a bit of an issue as well.
I mean, potentially, and I'm not saying that anyone's going to start rioting, because it wasn't that. It wasn't to this particular extreme of everything stopped working, or we stopped the show, or whatever. It wasn't detrimental, but it could have been. And that's kind of every gig really. Or when you start getting RF issues.
Yes, they're never there during the day.
And they're never, and the amount of times it's been absolutely fine, and then you hear this or this really high pitched squeal, and you're like, but it doesn't happen long enough for you to try and find it
to even work out which mic
or and it could be the mic, or it could be a frequency, or it could be an actual frequency that the mic is on because it's interference from somewhere or someone else, or it could be an issue with like the cable, like it could be something's dropped out somewhere else. You know, it literally could be anything. But because it only happens at one time, really quickly, you don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it because you don't know what you're trying to fix. And then it happens again, and people look at you and go,
"It's happened again.
You need to sort this out." I'm like, yep, I fully appreciate that, but and you can like, you have to think on your feet, but you can't physically do anything until you know what you're dealing with. And in order to know what you're dealing with, you have to work it out, and to work it out, you have to know what you're looking for. So yeah, it's RF is tricky. So I've had a few RF issues with interference and people not being on their own frequency, people sharing frequencies. Like before, I've had a gig where someone, we needed an extra mix. So I said, right, I can give you another mix because we've got kind of I could split the output.
Yeah. They bought their own in-ear pack or whatever.
Yeah, so they could have their own in-ears, but it would mean that it would adjust someone else's mix if they were, they were kind of happy sharing because they needed to hear each other anyway. But I was like, well, you're going to have to just kind of compromise somewhere in the middle because otherwise you're not going to have this
never
mix.
Never going to win. Yeah.
Exactly. And then they were like, oh, well, and then they said, oh, I need more of me. And then the other person went, oh, they've got too much of them now. And I was like, I've literally explained this to you. But because we're now in the middle of a gig, so you've then got to think on your feet, and like you can't do anything. Like you literally can't do when it comes to that. But they wanted to split this mix about 10 minutes before start time. Or people coming up to you going, oh, actually, we've got an intro track. Can you play it through the monitors because we need to hear it? And I'm like, or even when you're at front of house going, oh, by the way, we've got an intro track. Okay, cool. Do they need it on stage? And they'll be like, yeah, that'd be really useful. Should have given me this at the end of your sound check 2 hours ago. Yeah. Not going to be able to put it on stage. Oh, but they really need it. Well, if they really need it, they should have been done 2 hours ago.
Tell you what, you guys stand on stage with the iPod.
Yeah.
Get into this. And then it'll come through both desks.
Yay! Yeah, so thinking on your feet when it's something like, oh, you need to do this. So, I mean, okay. I mean, I will try. But it's just trying to like sort stuff out. It's always festivals where you're thinking on your feet, and like when you've got less time to do things. But the job is thinking on your feet. You know, it's just very proactive as a thing, as a job, as an occupation.
Yes.
As a hazard of the job, if you will.
I wouldn't say hazard, but yeah, you're correct.
Well, no, yeah, but it has the potential, doesn't it? Yeah. So that it's par for the course. We'll go with that instead.
We hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you could like and subscribe and leave us a comment, that'd be amazing. Otherwise, we'll see you again in another video. Cheers, guys.